Okay. You're
It's okay. Yeah,
All right.
it's okay. It's an age thing. Yeah.
We're gonna call this meeting to order, and we'll start. Is there a certain thing you want to do first to get anyone out and leave?
Yeah, I was gonna do the budget plan so she can go.
Y'all go ahead.
All right, you can go ahead.
Do you know these two ladies? Probably know Jennifer Hardy. This is Jessica Meadow. The lady in the blue shirt, and Jessica is our budget billing clerk. She's the one that is gonna keep up with everything.
So we've got in front of you, the very first page is a budget billing timeline. So we have to execute the contract with Bright. It's gonna take them a while to actually build the feature in our system. We wanted to present everything to you guys as far as a policy, you know, when we want to roll this out, the rules. I think Jessica is a lot more familiar. She did a lot of research for other localities that participate in this, what their rules are. And so we wanted you guys to read over this, give your blessing if you have something you don't like or you don't think it'll work for the system. And then we were anticipating, of course, we want to initiate it in the system, let them build, do what they need to do. Just end December, January, but of course, we've got to work some kinks out before we can start signing people up. So we were saying March 1, allow people to sign up for it because it's really important to me on the budget side of it, when they have that true up period, that we do it before the end of a fiscal year. So we were thinking, you know, March to April, so then they get their balance and have to true up before the end of that following fiscal year.
The
What's-
only thing I would add is the January bills are usually your big boys, that 11th of January, 11th of February.
Yeah.
Right.
So that bill goes out the 1st of March, is that
The
right?
January bills,
January 11th
reading.
To
February
February
11th
11th.
reading goes out on March 1st and is due 1st of April. If we're doing the true up, just be alert that those are the biggest bills of the year too. So we may need to move back a month and keep it in your fiscal year, but maybe do it in May when that big bill's over
Okay,
being paid.
and that's fine, that's kind of what we want to, this is just
That's gonna be a
What's
monster.
the,
bill
what
for
we've come up
everybody.
with.
What's the note on March 1st, 2019? Once released, we will no longer offer payment plans or extensions. That's because you can be on the budget plan. So if you're not on the budget plan, you just pay your bill like normal then.
I'll try to answer. We do a lot of extensions for folks.
Oh,
People
yeah.
come in with extenuating circumstances to the point where there's a file.
And is it that the system won't do that, or?
We're just trying to get out of the extension business.
Yeah, the system is gonna let us generate reports, who's on the budget billing, their amounts, and when they don't pay, it'll flag Jessica. But as far as these extensions, some people are saying, you know, I'll come in next Friday, so they've just got a hand file and they're going in and checking. It's a big file, and
Gotcha.
so doing
And that's where our
both.
rules come into play too, like how much of a good standing are we looking at? Are we looking at 6 months worth of good payment or?
I think the word has been that you need a year's worth of good
Right,
standing
well,
to.
we talked about that and then Philip and I talked about it and we felt like maybe we should rein that back a little
Yeah.
bit just because,
If we make it too strict, the
You're not
people
gonna
that
let
need
anybody
this
get-
the most,
Ain't gonna
people
be
that are
able
most in
to.
need,
right,
ain't gonna be able to get them.
Yeah.
You'll be on it, you'll be on it, you'll be on it, you'll be on it.
Mm-hmm.
But the people that really struggle with the utility bills that we wanna try to help
Mm-hmm.
Help,
out,
yeah.
they got it.
Yeah.
That's why
But
it
you
would be
also wanna
good.
make sure that we don't get stuck.
Right, that's
Right.
why it'd be
In
good
that
to
6
announce
months either,
this
though.
now.
Mm-hmm.
Announce this now, we wanna do kinda like a public hearing for people to come in and ask questions
So
and
that way
learn the
they
rules.
get
So
their,
they can start paying on time, and so when it comes open, they can sign up.
you
I
may see,
think
you
other
may see a
localities do
decrease in the
12
next
months.
month or so. For the next 6 months, if people were incentivized saying, hey, look, if you have good payment for 6 months,
And get on it.
you can get on this plan. And then you may see our pink slips go from 350 down to 300. I mean, who knows?
Our pink slips have been creeping up.
you'll also have to have a 12-month, history at your present address. We have a lot of people that move around
Mhm.
month to month, so I mean, that's gonna cut down also, but I
Which when
mean,
they move,
you need
so
that 12 months to be able to
sometimes
figure
they
that
change
budget.
names and
Right.
then that way the account gets
Right.
zeroed out, I guess you'd say then.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree with the current location.
Yeah.
So behind, you know, the timeline is basically the program, the policy we're trying to get adopted for this budget billing. And then also, you know, the agreement the customer would sign to agree to the policy. This is just gonna help, you know, eliminate some of the questions, you know, why was I kicked out of the program, you know, it's all here, we want you guys to look over it. And I think Jessica
And that's in your
provided,
terms and conditions.
So how do you, with your last bullet that I've already mentioned, once the program takes effect, extensions and payment plans won't be offered. How do we zero that out then? Because we're gonna still have, obviously, people that have payment plans.
Payment
At
plans
that-
are usually not longer than a month.
Okay.
Now, sometimes people come in and say, I just cannot come up with a $300 deposit.
Mhm.
And we'll stretch that out over, all right, you pay your regular bill on 100, regular bill on 100. We do some of that. Sometimes people have a big water leak, and I think we stretch that out as much as 7
Yeah,
months.
that's
And I think
different, I
that's
think.
a special circumstance.
Oh, yeah.
But
But just a standard electric bill,
if somebody comes into me and says, man, I cannot pay my electric bill, and invariably it's cutoff day, and it's a panic, and what can you do to help me? Well, how much do you have to put on your bill? If someone says I have nothing to put on the bill, there's not much I can do. Someone has a $200 bill and they put up $100 cash, I get paid on Friday,
Pay the
That's-
difference.
we may stretch it out another week, or I get my check on the 3rd. So maybe 2 weeks, but for the most part, if it's longer than 2 weeks, it's gonna be a little surprising to me. And if it is because of a big water leak, or we're trying to let somebody spread
and
out
it's
the-
not that we're trying to, I mean, we've got to keep everybody that does pay their bill in mind, because we don't want rates to go up to have to cover those that don't pay their bill, so we've got to keep all that in mind.
We can try it, I mean, it's gonna be tweaked, I'm sure.
So do you want to go ahead, Philip already said about April, so do you need to move that, the true up month, move it
To
to May?
May.
I would say the May, simply because, and I didn't tell you this ahead of time, if people are gonna be struggling with Oswego, Monteville.
so do you wanna open it to the public to be able to enroll
Yeah,
April
March is
1, or
fine to
let them,
enroll.
okay,
But I think the true up month should be moved
okay,
maybe to May, and because I think you're gonna see some
okay.
knockout bills there.
Because I think we'll be okay system-wise to be able to roll it out and give it to the customers March 1. Let them come in and start giving us the data and getting our paperwork ready, and then they really wouldn't see it till their April bill anyway. And we're gonna move the bills from the postcard.
Which I think would be a
site.
big
And she's got a copy here, what it would look like. Of course, once we can get Bright to do the upgrade, we're gonna have to tweak some of this, that's all part of the
Yeah.
process, why it's gonna take a while. And Jessica came up with a good point about the public hearing. We want the people that are interested and really wanted this to come and ask the questions in front of council, have all the billing clerks here, have Brittany here, we can get it all out there. So we're not flooded with questions once we roll it out.
Yeah.
So
I
will it
included,
be,
I included a copy of Salem, Virginia's, kind of their rules for their budget billing, and then behind that's their bill, which breaks down like your budget billing payment, and then it also shows like a running total, so there's no surprise at the end when true-up month comes. And then behind that is Dominion Energy, and that's just,
so we'll actually divide your water and sewer averages too, and
Yes, the
incorporate that.
system will automatically.
Yeah.
It'll be average on the water and sewer too.
It's gonna average everything, because that's how the
Entire
current billing works.
Which you don't probably have that big a fluctuation in water and sewer, unless you have a leak
It's
or,
not like electric.
yeah.
yeah.
Electric is really a big peak and valley in January, February, that's when you get the big one.
Now, if you're-
Water usage a little higher in the summer for the most part of people.
If you're concerned with that, I mean, we can talk to Bright and try to, like I said, we're in the building process of really telling them what we want the system to be able to do. We're the first Bright customer to ever roll out the
I
budget
think
bill.
personally, you're gonna have to budget all of
The
them,
entire bill.
Yes.
because it's gonna be a headache if you don't divvy up your water bill.
But I think like when they make their payment, like their $3 garbage collection, I think like out of their $400 payment, some of those are gonna get paid
Right.
first.
Okay.
So if somebody's in the program and they decide to move, do they then get bumped out of the program for 12 months?
Yes. You have to be at your present address for 12
To
months.
sign up.
To sign up, yes, but we have to have that 12 months of history to be able to calculate your budget billing. 'Cause so at this address, your bill might be lower than if you.
Because if you
lived
don't, you
bigger.
can't get an average or
Right.
something.
That's right. yeah.
Right,
Could you get an average
And
from
that could be
the
a gr-
location?
from the
there?
previous owner?
They could have a completely different lifestyle.
Right,
I
yeah.
mean,
That's true,
Yeah.
that's
They
true.
could be
Yeah,
One could have
completely skewed,
8 kids
Yeah.
and one could have 10.
yeah.
yeah, it's kinda hard to calculate.
I mean, I think it's, I mean,
On the water and sewer averaging, and we're just talking about these things and I don't know the correct answer. On the averaging on the water and sewer, we have peaks and valleys, not so much in consumption, but the month of February, the month of August, we chunk out some money. in bond payments. February's real heavy and August is real heavy in bond payments. So we just gotta be careful to make sure that cash flow's not gonna be impacted to the point that in February.
Well, I don't think,
We don't have the money.
I don't think they're gonna vary that much to where, I mean, I think if you average them out, they'll probably pay the exact same thing.
Well, I figured my own bill. And just as an example, and of course, the system, I think, will do it for us. Anyway, let me see if I can find where I put it. But anyway, I had calculated it on a receipt. But my bill at my house is usually $300 or $400, and sometimes in the winter months, it may be more than that. But I think when I averaged it, it was kind of around the same thing. But, so there's no, like, I wasn't gonna pay $147 and January my bill will be $500. It wasn't that big of a fluctuation.
We look at this example they have, and some people need to realize that it's gonna be like this sometimes. Their budget plan was actually $162, and this actual customer here, only if they were not on the budget plan, would have only paid $137.
37.
So some months you're gonna pay more.
So in the summer, people who are used to a $100 bill are gonna have a $200.
Correct, if you sign up, but it's gonna be even across the board, you're gonna pay the same
Same
thing.
amount every month.
And I think, isn't that the whole purpose of
Correct.
it, is so people can budget accordingly?
That's right.
They know, $150, every month they know it won't be a big surprise.
And when we talked to Bright, they talked to us about where the computer would kind of calculate the payment. But if they want to pay more of an amount, then they can choose to do that as well. We just put that in the statement.
What is a totter fee on here? Or is that just something unique for Salem?
I think that's probably just Salem.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, with some of the customers, when they say a budget, they thinking that their payment is gonna be less. I don't think someone really understand what
It's
they
gonna be less
really
than-
want.
The January, February bill,
Yeah,
but their bill in April, May, October is gonna be much higher.
yeah,
Because they're still paying the same out-of-pocket for the 12 months.
Yeah.
It's just you don't have the $700 bill in February or March.
true.
You're gonna have a,
And they still gonna complain, to be honest, which I hate to say it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's all
But
we're trying to do
we're
is
putting it out
offer
there,
it.
we're offering
Yeah.
it, we're doing,
Yeah.
everybody's
What
asked
they,
for it.
so they gonna
and
get it.
Just like we did with the 30 days instead of 15 days. We hoped and anticipated that the pink slips would go down. We did our part. They haven't gone down, but we can say that we've tried. So, same thing with the budget. If we're putting it out there, trying to help everybody, if they don't take it,
Yeah.
nothing we can do about it.
I would say the
We can't-
majority of months during the year, their bill will go up.
Yeah,
But it's just those really ugly ones that are January and
that
February.
are $700-800 bucks.
That are so high, or have been so high, they're gonna come down. But I would say 9 months of the year, you're probably gonna see a higher utility bill than what they usually see. For me, cash management in my house, I wanna keep that money in my pocket.
Correct.
Like invest it and maybe get some interest on it, nominal amount of interest, obviously. But some people have a hard time budgeting and saying,
Well, you got a lot of seniors that, live on a fixed income, and if they had a definite budget figure, it helps
Yeah.
them if they needed to budget for Social Security and all that stuff,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
I think we're gonna find that their average payment is higher than than what they can afford either. So, now what were you recommending as the percentage for, interest on unpaid balances?
We have
Currently,
penalty, we don't need
We're currently, what, 5?
it.
Yes.
For unpaid, yeah.
5?
So just the normal, we just kind of
Yeah.
left that blank. That was a standard verbiage that Tessie had sent us. So we kind of just left it blank and we would fix that. But I think like today, we really want you guys to, if you're okay with the parameters, like the 6 month and, cause,
Right.
I don't want to pull the trigger with Bright and get them to build anything until we know this is what we want. And I'm sure they'll let us tweak it here or there. If you think you need more time to read it over, I think we'll be okay, because I think you guys meet again before the regular council meeting. If you want to read it over, and then when we meet again, what was it, the
I think
17th?
we definitively like it adopted by the first of the year.
Well, with this
Well,
timeline, we need to adopt, we need
We
to
need a
present it to council this
recommendation
month.
from them, so we can move on with Bright as
Move
far
and
as the
release.
parameters of what we're trying to do, because Bright needs to build it.
But you, well, true, but I think Bright is already, and the council has already authorized going forward with this thing. I think the $10,000 has already been,
Correct, it's already been budgeted.
council's already said we're gonna
approved.
go.
You're saying like
I
pause
think
on
the
the
only
policy?
I think we can start with Bright. But what I don't think we can do is the parameters of the program definitively say, and if you guys are gonna meet again, or if you're not gonna meet again before the next council meeting, I think you still probably have until December on the parameters. Bright, yeah, I think you can turn them loose, and I
But
think
as of
council,
January 1, we would definitely need a policy.
we need a
parameter.
policy in place January once people
Well,
start
I
signing
mean,
up.
so
March
we don't even need to go to council and ask for approval to proceed with Bright, because we've already done that.
I think we're gonna do
So, I
it.
mean, just carry on with Bright and do what you need to do.
I think we're gonna do it. I don't think there's any doubt.
No,
It's
we'll
just, 6 months, maybe 3 months, or 12 months, maybe 9 months.
And of course, you know, the sooner we can get the policy adopted, the sooner then the following month, we want to do that public hearing to let everybody
Yeah,
come and advertise, let people come and ask questions, and I know it'll be the winter months, it'll be on their minds, they're gonna be
The one thing people have to
Oh, yeah.
understand, and I think I heard this that day at Spring Hill when we were up there, I can't remember where we were, you
It
and
was-
I were there, and the mayor was there. I think people are under the impression that budget billing is gonna start in 19. It is gonna start in 19, but people gotta pay in first. They get their big benefit in 2020.
In the winter of, yeah.
January, February of 2020 is when people are gonna see the benefit.
Right.
But for the 9 months ahead of time from
And
March
that's why it's
until
gonna
whenever.
start in April, May, because that's our lower bill months. So,
I found that paper I was telling you about, like, my bill, say in January was $596.38, but my budget amount, once I figured up my 12 months, would be $377.37. But my bill normally runs like $374, $361, $320, $326. So I mean, it's not,
so with you could actually
Yeah.
benefit
Yours is-
because you don't have real low numbers. Your average is pretty much right at, and you have 1 month or 2 months that actually skews your figure.
right.
So,
So it would help you in those hot summer
yeah,
months.
with
and
you
the
would actually
cold
benefit.
weather.
I would say you probably want to do it.
Yeah, great. Once we break it down for the customer, you know, they'll be able to see and they can
Will the
decide.
computer do that? So we don't have to sit there, I mean, because it,
Yes, we've asked that,
granted,
yes.
it's only 12 months, obviously,
Right.
but you want to, I mean, if you got 10 people online and you're having to figure out 12 bills, so if
Yeah.
the computer would do it, it'd be
Right,
great.
we could override the choice if
Gotcha,
need be,
okay.
but they're gonna calculate it for us and generate a report, so we can just say, this is what's recommended from your history. You know, of course, I think.
And there is, I guess there's no bargaining with that, like, say if it comes up and it says, your average is $375. What if they say, well, I only wanna pay $350? You can't, I wouldn't think you could do that, can you?
I
You ain't
feel
gonna-
like that would be your lowest amount. You could pay more, but I don't
Correct.
think you could go
Yeah,
lower than
that's
that.
defeats the purpose of the average bill.
Right.
Right, because then their true-up month, if they were to go lower, their true-up month would be a lot more and say.
I think whatever it is,
left
it
out.
needs to be what the computer says, there's no negotiating. Because, like Philip says, I'm sure there'll be plenty of negotiating attempts.
Oh, sure, people are gonna come to me and still want extensions,
Yeah.
and, man, I can't pay my bill,
But
I
it's
got
gonna be
laid
what
off, or I don't
we're
get paid till the
gonna
3rd, or.
At that town hall meeting, it's gonna have to be, you know, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Bam, 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 because,
Well, like Jennifer, I mean, she.
I mean, people are gonna think that, oh, yeah, this is gonna be great, and then.
Is that-
And then they're gonna
that's-
say,
that's
what
my
do you mean it's
thing.
$302 a month?
Yeah.
Only paying
Last year it was only
$179.
$198.
And they have to understand as well, if we get an insufficient fund payment, or if they don't make their payment and they're kicked out, they owe that full,
Oh, no.
they owe the entire amount.
And I think another good point was, what did you say, customers that get assistance for their bills are ineligible?
Well, no, I talked to, Ms. Barnes at the social services, and she said that they would be willing to pay the budget billing
Okay.
amount. Other localities don't allow fueling or cooling assistant customers to participate, but she said they would be willing to do that.
That's good.
And you'll get some of the,
Yeah,
You'll
well, I
get
wanted to
one.
make sure, I knew we had kind of kicked that around a little bit, so
Yeah.
that's good that our
Yeah.
locality will still participate. Okay,
Right.
So I don't think you need any of
We don't need a motion
No.
or anything, right?
so we'll just work on the policy again. You
policy.
wanna-
So read over the policy before we meet again and come up with any ideas and suggestions.
And then hopefully December we'll meet again and.
Yeah,
I think we're implementing the,
whenever they're ready to go, we don't have a lot of finance
yeah.
stuff going on.
In the first of the year we will, but
I think we know. So everybody's aware of the bills are gonna change, the 8.5 by
Yeah.
11, I think we all.
Yeah.
is that increasing our cost to,
I've been researching.
We're doing a study cost, because we've got the pricing to outsource the billing, and so we're really kinda.
because wasn't it Brittany that told us that it would actually be cheaper to outsource it?
It'll be cheaper. Brenda has some concerns as a utility clerk about that because
If
I
we spend
think
too much
she,
time, I think, scrutinizing each bill, I think we need to
yeah,
trust the computer, computer, let it do it. And I've said all, it's changed, yes, but I've said all along, we read meters on the 11th. We don't send bills out to the first of the next month. So we're sitting on over half a month.
To be able to review.
And if that customer skips out, we're hurting.
Right.
So we need to rely on the computer and embrace the change and just,
Well, when we meet again to go over the policy in December, we'll have a
Yep.
little cost study as
Well,
far as keeping
please
it
do.
in-house or outsourcing.
I
As far
think
as
outsourcing
postage
is
and
gonna be the way. I mean,
But irregardless, 8.5 by 11 is gonna be the.
Yes.
Right.
And I've
Because
looked
I would-
into printing the, and then we've looked into
outsourcing.
outsourcing and,
I would love for us to change our reading dates to shorten that 2.5, 3 week period. Because we don't need, I mean, yes, and I admire Brenda for what she does, and if someone's water usage is high, she calls them, that's great. But I would think there's something in a computer that could throw a red flag up and go, oh, call this person, instead of us having to check each one.
I think
So-
Bright will flag high readings or
There's a
readings
query
that-
you can run and you set the parameters, you know.
Yeah.
Usage is over this, it'll generate a report
just
that
think-
says.
We need to shorten that. I mean, we're on the hook for a lot of, especially now that we've moved it out 30 days, plus another 2.5 weeks. We're sitting on a lot of money that could be skipped out on.
Here's one thing that'll speed up stuff. And yes, golf cart. The guys do like golf cart, but electric won't last long. We gotta find a gas alternative.
Yeah.
But I think the guys did like it. Number two, we remotely read all of our electric meters now. Dan reads them in about
Ride down the street.
3 hours. Right down the street, boop, 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 read them all. Water and sewer still manual. You gotta go over there and stick a rod
Yeah.
on top of the meter box and boop, get a reading, okay? It's better than going down there with a notepad and
Yeah.
writing down the readings. That's an improvement. But there is a process where you can remotely read the water meters as
Just-
well.
I've
a lot of
noticed
money.
this month
$370,000 to retrofit the town.
Yeah.
working with Brenda, a lot of the meters at Pickett, only Andre knows where they are. So a lot of times the guys will go look for the meter. If they can't find the meter, they'll bring the book back and then we have to send him again to find the meter. So that takes some time.
Yeah. I just like the idea. I'll be leaning towards, so as you know, I'll lean towards systemize the billing. You just have it third party, send them out, be done with it. So,
All right?
all right, move on to, should we, I love the idea of universal rate, but to be, is this the wrong time, being that we're looking at budget at the same time? Because, I mean, we're asking a lot of our employees to, I mean, this.
It's
I
gonna
just said it
require
might
some kind of a
change.
rate study, because you still have to net approximately the same amount of money at the end of the, whether you change the bill, the rates for residential, commercial, whatever you do. But if you're looking at the larger users, especially commercial, paying significantly less, or excuse me, changing their rates to increase perhaps, okay, to get that balance, I think you may very well find out that the intention for this was to perhaps reduce some of these commercial rates that people are seeing with the demand meters. But I think the net result is gonna be residential customers are gonna have to pay a significant
Now,
increase. And I don't think that would be the intention,
I think the big thing
that
is
residential supplement commercial.
people don't understand, and myself included, how the usage goes. So residential, you have your basic $8.12 customer charge. And then for the first 800, is that added the point?
9 cents a kilowatt hour, 9.5 cents.
9.5 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 800 usage.
Okay. And then from that point on,
Each tier of those, it actually gets more expensive for the residential consumer.
but on a very small amount, I mean.
Yeah, you ain't got many residential consumers at 50,000 kilowatt hours, trust me, that's, if you got one, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of your folks are in the 9.5, 10.5 range, okay? It's opposite in the commercial, the more you use, the less expensive it ultimately becomes, and those are more like industrial type customers. That is how it's set up. Plus, you have to pay fuel adjustment. And that's an appreciable amount in your bill. And if you look at your bill, it has a FA line item. That FA is a fuel adjustment.
That's for residential and commercial,
Everybody pays it, we just pass it through.
pass through.
Yep.
And how is that calculated?
Dominion Power Council calculates and tells us what it is every year.
Divided among how much you consume.
And it's basically, what are the fuel costs to generate electricity from Dominion? We don't establish what the rates are. Dominion comes back and says, this is what we're gonna charge you because the cost of coal went up, or, we're decommissioning a coal plant and we're transferring over to nuclear power and we've gotta make these improvements, but the cost of the fuel for Dominion to generate the power, and they give us the number, we just stick it in, we don't put a 10%, 5%, any kind of rate
What's
increase.
the,
Security light, everybody gets charged 1057 and plus.
if they have a light?
In their yard, not on the street, but in their yard.
In the yard.
What's the $3 utility tax? I mean, what does that go towards? I mean, obviously it says Nottaway
Landfill.
County, but
It's for the landfill. Every electric meter, and this is the only way Nottaway County could figure out how to charge for the landfill, because you got Dominion Power customers, you've got Southside customers, and Town of Blackstone. So every electric meter located in Nottaway County has a $3 charge from Dominion.
but we also pay landfill charge.
Landfill charge.
Okay, so it's not considered utility tax, it's landfill charge, it's the LC charge on it.
Landfill charge, $3.
Plus they're paying the town's garbage fee.
The $14.
Yeah,
The $14 for the collection, and that pays for the collection. The actual $3 for the county goes to
Okay.
operating that landfill.
That's
The
what I
14
figured
is
our
for
tax dollars would do,
kitchen. Landfill's expensive.
but, no,
You start-
privatize that thing, get rid of it now.
Okay, and then there's a consumption tax, and Jennifer can probably explain it better than I, if you have questions.
The system calculates it based off the usage.
You made it sound like you were smart.
I would ask if
Does
you,
that just get rolled into the electric piece? I mean, there's not a separate line item for that.
I think it,
On the-
Yeah, it's a CT.
CT.
Oh, okay.
Consumer,
it's calculated off of usage, and then every month I generate a report for the usage and the consumption tax, and it's passed through.
Can
it's
you-
paid the-
State consumption tax obviously goes to the state. Special regulatory tax, what is that?
special what?
Regulatory tax?
The one that's in the middle.
Do we
I
know
don't
what
to tell
it,
you, I don't know what that is.
and then local, does that go to Nottaway?
We pay all the consumption, we pay everything to FEMA, and then I think FEMA distributes
Disperses it.
Yes.
I was just curious as to what people's money is actually going to.
Is wrong included on the FEMA bill?
Yes, so where it says total consumption tax, like I have different parameters and I have different calculations for everything for them, and I send them everything, and then they disperse it.
It may come back here, and I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, we hear so much about how our system is, we got an inverted system,
I
and,
don't know where that term came from.
but when you actually look at the fee, I mean, you're talking for the first 800 kilowatts on residential, it's just say 10 cent, I mean, 9.5 cent per kilowatt hour. If you go up to 900 kilowatt hours or more, it goes up a penny. I mean, so it's not like. And then on the residential side, it actually drops. I mean on commercial.
It actually dropped in the commercial. Ultimately, it dropped in the commercial.
Yeah.
I would ask that before we do anything to establish a universal rate, I think some study needs to be done so we don't end up cutting ourselves short. And I think let the lady, you mentioned it earlier, let the ladies kind of do their thing on these other changes first. And,
Well, let's look at this after we implement budget billing. Because we've got a lot between now and April or May next year.
The effects of the.
Yeah.
I did include for you, comes from Attorney General's office. State of Virginia every year compiles electric rates. And they only use 1,000 kilowatt hours, so it's not representative of big commercial users. It's not representative of anything other than a small or average
Yeah.
residential customer. 1,000 kilowatt hours, the retail rate And you can see where we're at. We're $117.50, and that includes all the charges, the consumer tax, the fuel adjustment, everything included. Okay? And
All right. Can you, just for an example, and this may actually ease, so we've got that for 1,000 kilowatt hours. So say if someone used 25, because that would
That-
go up.
I'd have to go, yeah, it would
So
go
at 2,500, since it goes up 10 cent per kilowatt hour.
or 2501.
Yeah, 2,501. This may be where we can help out the consumer, and us included, get a better understanding. Can we get those figures?
Yeah, we go back to
Figure-
each tier.
Yeah, figure it to, we've obviously got it for the first 1,000 kilowatt hours, where we stand.
We'll
So-
do 1,000, 5,000,
Yeah, do it each tier, yeah.
2,000 or whatever.
And where the bill would actually, how much the bill would be.
Yeah, I don't think it's
So
hard to-
that way, we may still be cheaper than all the others. I mean, you never know.
If you look at the communities that are our size, I'd say the closest one is probably Franklin, Virginia. Culpeper, when we talk about number of customers, is when we talk about the sizes. Wakefield obviously is much smaller than we are. Manassas and Harrisonburg are much larger than we are. They're in the tens of thousands of customers. We're 2,000 customers approximately. And I think we're terribly competitive.
How,
And,
how large is Culpeper? Is Culpeper pretty?
I think it's comparable, because we were trying to find for the budget building, somebody in Vima.
It's the
that's
third
comparable.
largest community in the Dominion system, okay? And when it says Dominion, those are the VEMA,
Correct.
and then the American Power, those don't buy from Dominion, they buy from Apple, I believe. Okay, so those Dominion towns and cities are, we purchase directly from Dominion. And if you look at it, Culpeper, the largest, I believe, is Manassas, second largest is Harrisonburg, Culpeper is the third largest. Franklin is slightly larger than we are, and then Elkton and Wakefield are smaller than we are.
How about Badfoot? Is that
Pardon?
Badfoot?
Bedford,
Yeah.
that's a
Ain't you
electric
kind of
system.
small?
I think they're larger than we are, but I wouldn't say they're overpoweringly
Okay.
big, like Harrisonburg or something like that. Front Royal may be more comparable to us. Obviously, Martinsville and Danville are larger. Richlands probably be pretty close. I think we're competitive. Certainly.
Is there, so if you would, and it doesn't have to be within the next week or so, but especially being that Southside is, I guess you'd say, our neighboring provider, figure out what per tier we pay, or the consumer pays, and what the Southside consumer would pay.
For 1,000, I can tell you what it is.
Yeah, for 1,000, but can we?
Southside
fig-
Electric is 133.
Correct, so can we figure it on the next tier? And just figure,
We'll do our best to try to figure it out.
just figure it out, just, I mean, education is the best way to solve a lot of issues. So-
Yeah,
This
yeah.
includes Dominion and
Correct,
everybody else.
yeah.
Now, do you want that just sent out in an email, or just present it when we come back?
Just, just good information so that if we don't do a universal rate, we can say, look, this is what
Right.
we charge now. And since it has been said that we have inverted rates, well, look, this is what our rates are, even if you use 5,000 kilowatt hours. So
Yeah.
it's better just to come at them with just facts and figures.
There's some things our billing is much more simplistic than say Southside or Dominion. They have things called base rates, like we do, but they also have riders, which we include in our base rate. So it's not always apples to apples comparison, so there's gonna have to be a little work to try to figure it
Yeah.
out, but it can be done. Okay.
Next, we've got Philip wants to talk to us about where to get rates on some CDs and investments that we need to allocate somewhere.
We have a $2 million CD that sits at Benchmark Bank and draws 1.9%, Jen?
1.95.
1.95%. It's a 3-year CD that we put aside. We're also, I've got it here. I think we're ready to put some additional monies in that are sitting in a money market account right now. I think they draw 0.4%, so they're not really doing much. And these are reserve funds that we don't need immediate liquidity. But our CD does permit a certain number of withdrawals without penalty that we worked into the agreement, but it is a 3-year. We, I believe, should take $1 million out of the current money market account and put it into either an investment tool or a bank CD. We present to you some information about the local government investment pool, which is a state-sanctioned body that makes investments and handles deposits for local government. And it also handles things for an authority like the jail authority or a port authority. There, I think they can also participate in this kind of thing. I'd like to take a look at them, and our initial looks at it, they have more of a daily and a weekly rate. But you can see that Jennifer included, and this is on their website, I think, when we looked at it, it was 2.3% on a daily rate. Okay, I'd like to do some comparisons, and I think LGIP may have better return.
Yeah, well, I was looking at the daily and the weekly, and it shows projected interest around $70,000. Is that it says maturity is 3 years, so we have to keep it in there longer.
That was just, I don't think you're required to keep it in there that long. That was just me trying to.
No, I think you can take it out any time.
So is that 69,000 total interest that you would earn over the 3-year period?
At 2.3%.
That's not per year.
Okay.
And it may go up. See, the CD's fixed for 3 years. It ain't
Yeah, that's
changing.
right.
I'd like to take a look at it.
So right now, on, how long, was it a 3-year CD with Benchmark?
We put
So
it in
We'll
about a year,
bank $117,000.
over 3 years.
That's the difference.
From this to this.
Gotcha.
Now, that's, and Jennifer
what-
explained to me, that's just taking a percentage, that's not compounding the interest and all that, so that's just 1.95% over 3 years on a principal amount.
That's what 0.4% will do is a difference, so.
Right now, it's sitting in a money market account, and we continue to build depreciation plans, and reserve funds, and all those kinds of things that we are on schedule, we believe, to, in October of 19, be done with that, which has been hanging around for a terribly long time.
So would you like us motion from this group to seek
I don't mind going to get the CD rates
bids
too.
and proposals from local banks and LGIP, the local
Now,
government investment pool?
I will say LGIP is already procured like EVA or
Correct.
anything like that, so
But
you're not
let's give 'em a
obligated,
shot.
but
And plus, we need to find out the terms and, you know,
how does it be?
yeah.
What the rates are?
Would it, is there a low that it will go, like you and I discussed? We need to know, is there a bottom?
Is there a principal?
Right.
And I think a CD is no principal risk. Now, this is state approved. I think there's more principal risk on this LGIP, but I gotta understand it a little better.
I
We really
move-
don't wanna get into a risking the principal
I move to recommend to the full council.
interest yet.
To seek proposals through local banks and the LGIP, the local government investment pool, for rates of up to $1 million.
$1 million.
Any
Second.
specific on years?
Pardon?
Are we worried about years, or are we just gonna get it?
Yeah, we need to have, because remember, we
Yeah.
stepped in that pie before. We need to make sure our terms are the exact same when we go to every bank. It needs to be 2 years, 3
Oh,
years.
3
CD,
years,
well, it
yeah.
was last time.
Yeah,
3-year CD, but what they didn't like was on the borrowing for the East End.
gotcha.
Give me your best proposal.
So you
on
want
the
3-year CD?
place. Yeah, we'll do the same.
So, same terms that we've had with the last
3-year
CD,
CD,
3-year
and
CD.
then we'll make our calculations on the LGIP.
And that's second, yeah.
And you would like to have a no penalty,
Yeah, we've got to. I mean, and
yeah.
we can get hammered on principal or even interest if we have a snowstorm and we need to take money out to fix.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll take that to the full council.
Congratulations, guys. This is a big deal. It's a good deal.
$1 million, a lot to put in. And we'll move on to the bus budget. Josh said he was gonna be quick, so.
Ask them some hard questions.
Okay, so the first sheet that's in the packet is basically a summary of what my request will be. There's a number of bullet items in there. The first one's kind of informational for you. That's how the grant usually gets split. The state portion being a low estimate and then our portion being a high. It fluctuates about 13 to 37%, but I'm aiming a little low this year on the state side. One bullet point that I'm requesting is a 2.5% salary and wage increase for the bus system. The second bullet point is a Fast C route expansion. So that will be a new route in anticipation of servicing the Fast C project area, Nottaway Commons.
Cost the town an additional 15,000 match.
Correct. Based on that 40% match. So
And how many year, for 1 year? Is
that's
that-
for 1 year.
So if it's a bust and that bust does nothing for us, we can exit next year.
Correct. We can remove it from our application in 21.
Okay. Because, I mean, you don't want to spend, I mean, if it's not bringing in what we think,
Correct.
ridership-wise, you don't want to.
Yeah,
But no,
and-
it's a need, yes. I think it's a good thing to have to start.
And there was a study done on that, so if y'all would like to see the study, just let me know. I can forward that to you. But they're anticipating or projecting about 8,700 riders a year to 11,000 riders a year based on what the information that they had. So theoretically, it's going to be successful.
You can never calculate what the actual benefit to the town is
Correct.
because you don't know what they're buying, how much they're buying, what's going towards meals tax. But,
There is a national study that's done on transit systems that basically, if you can look at the community investment into transit systems, for every $1 a community invests, it generates roughly $4 in economic benefit. So you can kind of use that as an idea of
so
what
we can say we may make $60,000 off the bus next year
in
by
like
putting 15,000 in.
right by them shopping and eating and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
The next bullet item, the Crew Burkeville Express, this doesn't really apply to Blackstone, but the council has to approve any request that I make before I make it. And the Crew Burkeville Express, I've had a lot of people ask for additional days of service trying to get to the courthouse and stuff like that. Right now, the bus only runs on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. A lot of people ask for Friday and Wednesday service. So I'll be presenting that to the county as a request for additional funds. That local match will be about $17,499.
What is their match right now, do you know?
Currently give $8,000, but we found out this year that I was a little short, so I've got to up it anyways based on our current budget,
So you're thinking they may increase by $7,500 roughly,
roughly.
somewhere in that range.
About that ballpark figure, yep. And that's for 2 additional days of service, so basically we're almost doubling what they get,
Correct.
essentially.
Okay.
And the next bullet, right now, what the localities do, they basically just write us a check up front as a lump sum at the beginning of the year, which helps float some things. But, kind of going back to the Nottaway thing, finding out that we got paid less than what we're supposed to. If we bill them monthly, we basically get exactly what we're supposed to be getting, no more, no less. So what I'd like to do is potentially start going to that structure, have them budget the amount of local match, and then send them a bill every month for their portion of it. And then the final things are the capital items. You can see those in the pages following. There's a request for replacement tools. I need to point this one out because it's basically replacing all of the hand tools and some fixtures in the shop that is bus and town. So that I'm asking for a 50-50 split on that. So the bus system will put up $5,000, and then I'll be requesting $5,000 from the town to cover those replacement
Do
costs.
they state, and this may be a dumb question, do they state it needs to be 50-50? Or could we request that they do 75, we do 25?
We can. We don't have a cost allocation plan at the moment, so we kind of gauge it on our use of it, like how much of the use is bus and then how much of the use is town. So we can do that.
I always like to aim high.
What are you talking
Replacement tools. Replacement tools.
He was saying 50-50 split between
about? Yeah, we
state.
use them on,
Yeah. Alright.
And we can change that, obviously. This is just a recommendation I'm making, but
Yeah, and then granted, and I'm not trying to get anything over on the state, because we, or DRPT, whoever, because we get a good benefit out of having that bus shop out there.
yes, sir. Absolutely.
Very much so. So,
And then the next items are all transit. So there's a replacement bus in there for Brunswick Express. We have a scheduled replacement of our 04 Chevy van, so we'll be asking for money to replace that. Our pressure washer crapped out on us, so we're going to ask to replace that as well. And then the last item is something I would really like to have done as soon as possible. I think that we really need to. Yeah, it's desperately needed, especially the website. The website's a fiasco.
talking about
so.
logos on the vehicles, stuff like that, just rebranding.
Right. I'm not so much going to try to put decals and stuff on the bus. It's more like a scheme, so like a
Correct,
paint
yeah.
job and stuff like that. The logo is more for like the Babs, like what you see as Babs on the
Some
brochures.
flyers
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
that's correct. And then also in there is the 5-year capital plan, which I have to have y'all approve before I can submit it to the state. There was one submitted prior, but we don't really base it off of that anymore, so I have to have a new one. And then the last item is a proposed fare increase. I apologize for the one that's in there, but that's incorrect. We are not proposing to increase BABS or Fast C, only the out-of-town routes to $1.
Okay.
From 50
So your
cent to
locals
$1.
will still be 50 cent.
The Blackstone route will stay at 50.
And it's been 50 cent for how long? Since the beginning, correct?
Since 2003.
And the only reason you're looking at going to $1 for out of town is simply fuel, I'm sure. And
It's a major cost.
but a dollar to go from here to
Farmville.
Farmville or Petersburg, wherever. That's
You can't
good
beat
deal.
that, yeah.
Spread out. All right.
Folks in Blackstone aren't putting as much strain on the system because less
Correct.
gas, less hours.
That's right.
All that sort of thing. So, and we're Blackstone and we'd like to see our people reap some benefits.
Correct.
If that's possible. And,
Right, and you can break out the calculation, like if you break out the cost per hour based on the budget and the hours that we have, Blackstone's substantially lower than, let's say Piedmont, for instance. Piedmont's our biggest expense so far.
Prince Edward line and
Correct. Amelia, Buckingham, Cumberland.
So that changes the proposed revenue where it's almost double. If we're not gonna change it to $1, what does that number then become?
The current revenue for the Piedmont area transit, you can see under Amelia and Buckingham, you see $784.50 as our current. Essentially what the projection would be is double that if our ridership
yeah.
doesn't change. Mhm. And that would go to offset local match and FTA funds.
So are you looking, I mean, you just want us to approve all of this?
Yeah, I have
Submit
to,
council?
right, I have to have council approve anything to the bus system before I do that.
Philip, are you good with?
I'm good. One thing I wanted to, hopefully the net contribution from the locality, other than that adding Fast C line,
Correct.
should be neutral. We shouldn't be seeing a big
It-
increase to the local match.
Based on last year,
Is any of that local match from the Fast C route? Is that any of that in kind?
in kind as,
Okay.
It's all cash, okay.
That's the increase that we see in the local contribution is to offer that Fast C line, is that right?
correct, yes. If you compare just BABS, the BABS line without Fast C, it's actually gone down from 2019. I was able to shave a lot off of the proposed budget.
Well, I mean, and that's why I brought up the idea about your local tools, granted it's only 5,000, but maybe there's a way our local match can actually go down a little bit if we can try to get them to do 75% and us 20 on small tools or something.
Correct, and keep in mind too that this local match percentage is actually an inflated amount. We could very well get less, or more state money and less local money in that. It's just, I'm estimating high on the local
Yeah.
side and low on the state, so,
You're giving us the worst case scenario.
worst case, yep.
We're talking about raises at some point. The bus drivers' salaries are 100% paid for by the state. except for
The bus
Blackstone.
system,
We pay a share of that.
that comes out of your local match.
Right now, we pay people that entry level cutting grass, $9 an hour minimum. Bus drivers are $8.75 an hour, commercial driver bus. So, and they'll say we're gonna make presentations here at some point here fairly soon.
Who does that come through though?
Mhm.
Doesn't that need to be in the budget for the BABS?
He's already included $9 as the minimum
Okay.
rate, but we may wanna adjust internally.
Gotcha.
Does as well. What you've got is $9 an entry level salary, raised to 25
Correct.
cents. But you got people that have commercial driver's license.
Some of them Class A's.
So, I think you'll see us make some requests,
So then that changes.
if we can get it done before the board supervisor or the town council meeting, so be it. If we can't, then it'll be in the next coming year, we'll have a plan together and we know what we're doing. Josh is also gonna make a request, so you know, to Nottaway County. He currently pays $8,000 for a route over to Cruden Burkeville for an increase, and he'll be making he'll submit a request to the Board of Supervisors. Not for this fiscal year, but it'll be for next fiscal year, okay? So when they have their budget meetings in the spring, they're usually 2-3 months accelerated in front of us because they have to adopt their budget for the schools. So usually probably in March or thereabouts, Josh will be up there making a presentation, trying to get some more county money to provide the 3-day service that they're doing for.
So if we approve this, or recommend the council to approve, that, when does this actually take place?
The application to the state would be between January and February,
And then this is for budget year,
FY '20.
1920, July 1st, 19 is when it would start.
okay. So at that time, you could actually get approval from the county before then, so that route would be in effect July 1, the increased route for the county.
Correct. As it stands now, I'm going to have to make the request early because based on their previous contribution, it wasn't enough. But in terms of an expansion, I'm going to have to request that at a different time,
All right.
which the expansion is desperately needed. So a lot of people have been asking for that.
All right, so you feel comfortable? All right, I move to recommend to the full council approval of the fiscal year 2020 budget for the Babs bus system, as presented.
Isn't it gonna change?
With the change of the Babs line is only getting 50, they're not getting an increase in, as what you presented here, you have $1 increase on the Babs. It's only
Correct.
50
Yeah,
cents.
that's
50
correct.
cents for the black
So
on.
it's gonna
So there's no-
decrement it by $7,900, basically.
Yeah,
We got about $8,000 in fares this, or 18 in FY '18. So it's a little bit more. It's based off an average.
okay. All right. Anybody want to second that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. That's it. Anything, Philip? I'm not, or don't give you the opportunity.
Be happy to rattle on about
No.
all things finance.
All right. Adjourned at 6:25.